a couple of things left. One of them is really all the big thank yous. Thank you to all the people really all over the world who filled your goodie bags. You know, my husband actually asked me as these packages were coming in, are you developing like a shopping problem? Because I was getting boxes and bags and things of stickers and pencils and, you know, all kinds of things that would go into those magnets. Secondly, to the people that really helped put this thing together, the Armstrong Air and Space Museum has been a joy to work with, and thank you all so much. Even the people down in Dayton who took us on the tour yesterday morning, they also were just really, well, what can we do for you? How can we help you? Those little toys that came in there, I was out going around to the centers, the interpretive centers at the field, and they recognized me because a couple of other hipsters had been in before me, and you know, basically asked, "What's this hipster thing about?" I was carrying my bag, and you know, so I explained what we're doing, and you know, and then they said, "Well, can we give you something?" Things, you know, I mean, and so those toys are the last bit that I was putting in your they actually fly. They're based on the toy that the Armstrong or the Wright brothers got from their dad that started them in there. So that was just kind of fun. Third, to the people, Kathy is stepping up as sort of co-chair of the field trip with me for the next. I don't know. You gonna do it again? Yeah. Okay. After the first time, Chris, my co-moderator, or one of my co-moderators, there are actually 8 of us. Sometimes it doesn't seem enough. Yeah. But 8 of us who take turns trying to make sure that our Facebook page has 24/7 coverage so that it stays the site that we know and love and, you know, doesn't get taken over by Facebook bad people. And Chris is just always, you know, every time I ask him to do something for this field trip, even though he hadn't signed up for anything, it's like, Chris, can you do this? Chris, can you do that? He just steps forward. Another person that needs a big thank you is Brian Matney. Brian is I wrote to Brian, I don't know, a month ago or 6 weeks ago when I got the idea. I said, you know, we could do like lanyards or something like this, you know, instead of the white strings that we had. I can't believe we hadn't done it sooner. I know. But I said, why don't we, you know, we could do lanyards and instead of those white strings that hold the things on that we've had before. Why don't we do that? And so I had looked around at various places, and I said, you know, Brian, could you just send me a file that just had Space Hipsters written on it in just the font that we use, right? Just that. That's all I wanted. And Brian comes back less than a day later with this design that you see here with the stars and the little helmet guy and all that. And I thought it's so much better than anything I could have come up with. Brian also manages our Zazzle store, and somebody asked me the other day, how do you afford, like, I mean, who's paying for these buttons and who's paying for whatever? We get about 5% of the sales through the Zazzle store, so those cool t-shirts and mugs and bumper stickers and the stickers that are on the front of your bags and all those kinds of things. As you buy them, we get enough money that we can then replant that money back into the button giveaways and things like that, which is, I think, our most visible thing like that. But Brian comes up with new designs all the time. And that shirt that he's wearing, and that some of you are wearing, is our 50th anniversary Apollo 11 shirt. And it's this year only. The gray buttons are this year only. I've had so many people tell me when I'm wearing mine that is the best Apollo 50 design that they have seen. They love it. They don't even know what Space Hipsters are. But, but they love that. So thank you, Brian. Thank you for all you do. Our very sort of last thing, and this is actually a favorite thing of mine, is our book prize, our annual book prize that we give out. And I have some notes here, so I'm going to refer to these. But a couple of years ago, someone asked, I think it was Rod Pyle, asked us if I knew of any book prize that space authors could apply for. You know, was there something out there? And I think for those of you that might not know, I'm a historian that's what I do for my day job, and I serve on a lot of book prize committees for the American Historical Association and things like that. So I think, you know, Rod just said, I think he'd seen me posting about some of that work, and asked me if I knew of one. And there is, the American Astronomical Association actually has a book prize, but it's few and far between, and there really isn't anything that covers space history, space exploration, and astronomy. Like, you know, this group is kind of a big big tent group. I mean, we cover a lot of different interests. And so, you know, I kind of got to thinking about it, and then I called Emily, and I said, you know, do you know anything? She didn't know anything. And Emily Carney is our founder of the Space Hipsters, and one day she's going to come on a field trip, but not this day. And, you know, we got to talk about, and we thought about all the different great authors that we have in our group, and all the books that we sell every year, and all the, you know, posts that we have, and we thought, we could do this thing. Like, we could maybe start a book prize and see where it goes or what happens. So we had a donor who gave us enough money to get through the first year. Patch sales took care of the second year, and we'll take care of the third year of the book prize. And so for this is our second book prize. It is a prize that we accept nominations for beginning in November through January for books in those fields published during the previous year. So for 2019, we're giving out the prize for books published in 2018. And then we have a team of judges that are people from all over, I'm not going to say all over the world, but in many countries. And they are people who are themselves book authors, historians, space professionals, people who review a lot of books, and a contingent of just really interested readers who, you know, we noticed over the years had been, you know, writing about books and telling us about books we had to read and things like that. So in January, when the nominations close, the books go out to the judges. They spend the period from about January 15th until, what's today? The 20, you know, not really. I asked them, can we get it done by like April 15th, you know? And by April 13th, I'm saying, you guys, we have like 8 books still left in the package. I mean, we still got, can we do this thing? This year we had 13 books nominated. And, you know, right away we knew it was going to be a tough year. And everybody who ever gives out a book prize says, as a matter of form, it was a difficult choice. There were so many excellent submissions. You know, the judges just really had a hard time. Only this year, it is so true. There were so many good books, and you know the list. And we played it over lunch. If you know had a chance to see what was going on, you've seen the list. We've been talking about it for months. But neither I nor Emily nor anyone connected with sort of space hipster. I don't call it leadership because I don't think we're real leaders, but you know, space hipster sort of enforcement. Those of us, none of us are involved in the judging. I mean, it's all done by independent people. They're all members of the group, but they're all they're all people. And so we supposedly turn them loose and they come up with a winner, but it takes a lot of people. We got to get down to we got to get down to our finalists. Because when we get down to we have 13 books, when we get down to our 4 to 6 finalists, thank you. We get down to our 4 to 6 finalists, and then we try to have all the judges read all of the finalists so that everybody can make informed votes and things like that. So there's a lot of mailing out of books and getting publishers to send us free copies, please. And if they don't, we have to secure copies and mail the books and do all that. And then the sort of coming down to this. Like I said, every time, we all knew that there was only going to be one winner. Every judge knew that there was only going to be one winner. About a month before the deadline, we still have, I think, like 11 books left to, and I kept saying, we got to eliminate. And people would write to me and say, this is a really great book, here's the review. And I would say, right back and say, this is the best book you've read all year. Well, it's not the really best book I've read all year because there's so many good books this year, but any other year this would be a winner. I said, can we eliminate it? Would you recommend eliminating it? Oh, no. No. You should let someone else, read it and change that. I don't want to be the one to eliminate this book, okay? And this just went on and on and on until I think it really was this month that we got down to our list of 4. And then finally, after we got down to our list of 4, it was really interesting because when we got down to our list of 4, then I polled all the judges and said, give me your #1 book out of these 4. And it was almost unanimous. I think 9 out of the 11 chose one book finally that emerged from this competition. The criteria for the book is that it has to be a book that is extremely well written and engaging, and it will engage both specialists and the general public, which is a difficult kind of thing to do. People have to, experts have to read it and be engaged with the writing, and so it has to be well written, and it also has to be technically accurate. You find a lot, there's always going to be a mistake or two, but you find a lot of mistakes, and that gets rejected. And the third criterion, which I think is kind of the hardest one at all, somebody was commenting here, some of these books, particularly space history books, you know, we've heard a lot of these stories many times. It's very difficult to have the criteria that says we want a story, if at all possible, that we haven't heard before. We want a new story. We want this best book of 2018 to be a story that we haven't read before. So one or two books got, this is a really great book. It's well written. It's engaging. I bought an extra copy and I sent it to my kid for Christmas. But it is a story that, you know, has been told before. So those are the kinds of things. Well, without kind of further ado, I have the announcement that out of these last books here, or out of all the books that were nominated, our winner is Mike Lineback and for those of you who might not know this book, this story, this really is a story that could only have been told by Mike Lineback. Who was the person who was responsible for the recovery of the Columbia remains and the bits of the shuttle that were left after. I get real emotional when I talk about this one, I'm sorry. Of the pieces of the shuttle that were left and collecting it and reassembling it. And it was as they like to say, a 1,500-mile crime scene, recovery scene, with all the different pieces and bits. And so it was a remarkable thing. I don't know how Mike forced himself to go through reliving this, to put this book together. And Jonathan Ward, as we all know, because Jonathan is an old friend of many of ours, is very articulate, writes great prose, and helped Mike turn this story into a book that's accessible for everyone. So we are really proud to award this to Jonathan and Mike. There is a $250 award for this, but I think, yeah. I think that this is really important. Can somebody just make sure that we get a picture that we can send to Mike and to Jonathan so they know? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Redundancy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Lois, I just emailed him.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Now with the picture.
Now with the picture, yeah. Okay. And then, of course, also, as is our Space Hipsters tradition, that we give a copy of this book to a member of our community with a drawing, which I already conducted the drawing because I knew that we would just be getting really busy and do whatever. I have the folded up thing in my pocket. I don't know who won it yet, but I just pulled it out of the hat. It's somebody that is here. And we were able this time, without knowing in advance who it was, that this is actually an autographed copy of it, because we've had Jonathan and Mike at various events and acquired several. And actually this one was donated by Chris, Chris Boyd, who had an extra copy here. So without further ado, this one goes to Bob Campbell. Yeah.
Can I make a statement?
Yeah.
I know this is kind of crass, but I left it out of my talk. If any of you do like my book, if you wouldn't mind putting up a 3 or 4 sentence review on Amazon, I would appreciate it.
Yeah. By the way, yeah. Every one of our authors would appreciate that gesture. When you finish a good space book and you go on Amazon and leave the review, that kind of thing is really important. You know, we have you can't advertise on Space Hipsters except the last day of the month, but we make 2 exceptions. One, when you have a new book out, and your book, you know, comes out, we let you, no matter what day of the month it is, you can tell us about your book. And the second one is if you're doing a signing, that we, you know, allow you to, because it's time sensitive, you know, to do those things. I mean, we really want to support our authors. Last thing is to let everybody know that this is Space Hipster Field Trip number 4. Space Hipster Field Trip number 5 will be this same weekend next year. The last weekend in April. It seems to work as well as any weekend can work, you know, because there's always going to be something. And we are in negotiation with the Tom Stafford Museum in Weatherford. They had actually invited us twice before. They wanted us, they had wanted our group out, and we were honestly about to settle on the date and everything else last year when Fred Hayes called and said, y'all want to go to Michoud, you know, and y'all want to come down to Infinity, and I'll spend the afternoon with you. And I said, yeah, Fred, I think you got a deal. Yeah. I mean, we couldn't beat that one, right? But the Stafford Museum is now, and actually I thought about it for this year, but it's undergoing extensive renovations in preparation for the big 50th anniversary next month there. Weatherford, Oklahoma. Weatherford, Oklahoma. So you fly into Oklahoma City. Yeah, you fly. Flying into Oklahoma City for those of you that come long distances for these. And so watch the space for when we make it official, because there are papers to be signed and to make sure that the date hasn't been taken by someone else or something like that. And we're always up for suggestions of sort of your favorite space place.
Can I say one thing?
Yes.
When you're handing out kudos earlier.
Yes.
The other actual thank you I have is, if anybody, is for Emily Carney, who is our founder, who is, as you might guess, very protective of the Space Hipsters name. She doesn't like, and so when I suggested doing these field trips, and it was going to be something that she couldn't oversee personally herself, the fact that she actually trusted me and the rest of us to do this thing with her group, it actually means a lot to me. So, yeah, thanks to Emily. Oh, please, actually, you know what, you guys?